The wind moved slow across the golden fields that stretched far beyond sight. The sun was high, its light flooding the land with heat and life. Dust rose with every gust, whispering stories of those who once lived and those still trying to. Eli Ward tightened the reins of his horse, his eyes fixed on the distant mountains. He had bought this land 2 weeks ago, a forgotten ranch nobody wanted, miles away from any town, half broken and haunted by the memory of war. But for Eli, that was exactly what he needed, silence. He dismounted near the old barn, brushing his hand across the cracked wood. Still standing, he muttered, "Guess you've got more fight left in you than I do." But he wasn't alone. From behind the barn, a shadow moved, quiet, graceful, watching him. It was a woman, barefoot, her long black hair shimmering in the sunlight. Her skin carried the deep bronze of the desert tribes, her clothes torn but clean. Her eyes, dark as river stones, followed him like a hawk. Eli froze. "You're trespassing," he said softly. She didn't move. The only sound was the wind and the call of a hawk high above. Then, in a voice low and steady, she answered, "This land was mine before you bought it." Her words hit him like a bullet. He took a slow step forward. "I didn't know anyone lived here." "I don't live," she said quietly. "I survive." Her name, he would later learn, was Tala, which meant, wolf. Her tribe had cast her out 2 winters ago after her husband and child were taken in a raid. The elders said she carried death wherever she went, and in their fear, they banished her. She had been wandering since, sleeping in caves, drinking from rivers, hunted by loneliness itself. Eli looked at her, not with pity, but with the same kind of silence she carried. "If you've got nowhere else," he said after a moment, "you can stay. But not in the barn. You'll stay in the house, if you can help me fix it." Tala's eyes narrowed. Why would a white man help an outcast? He shrugged. "Maybe I'm one too. By noon, the two of them worked side by side. The air shimmered with heat, the smell of dry hay and sweat filling the open sky. Eli repaired the roof while Tala carried wood and patched the cracks in the walls with clay. They didn't speak much, words seemed unnecessary when the rhythm of work was enough. As the sun dipped lower, Tala paused to drink from the bucket near the well. Eli watched her hands, steady, strong, not the hands of a woman who had ever been treated gently. He felt something stir, something he hadn't felt in years, respect. Later, as they sat by the steps of the porch, the horizon painted gold and orange, Tala spoke without looking at him. "You should know," she said quietly. "My people will not forgive this. They will come when they find me here." Eli took a sip of water, eyes on the sunset. "Then I'll be ready." She turned to him. "You would fight your own kind." He smiled faintly. "I've been doing that my whole life." There was silence between them again, the kind that carried more meaning than talk. Somewhere beyond the hills, a coyote cried, its voice long and lonely. Tala's eyes softened, her guard lowering for the first time. "Why are you here, Eli Ward?" she asked finally. He looked at the land, the dying sun reflected in his eyes. "Because I've lost everything worth keeping," he said. "Now I'm trying to build something that won't leave." That night, the wind grew strong. The old ranch groaned as if remembering every storm that had ever passed through. Tala couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, watching the sky turn silver under the moonlight. When Eli came downstairs, half asleep and holding his lantern, she didn't look at him. "I hear drums," she whispered. He listened. Faint, distant, but real. The steady beat of horse hooves and wooden drums echoed across the valley. "They've found you," he said softly. Tala stood, her jaw tight but her voice calm. "They won't come tonight. The drums are warning, not attack." Eli set the lantern down, the warm glow touching both their faces. "Then what are they saying?" She met his eyes. "That the spirits have seen me here. And they are not pleased." He chuckled dryly. "Well, they'll have to get used to it." For a moment, her expression broke into something small and fragile, a smile. The first he'd seen. Morning came bright and sharp. Eli woke to the smell of smoke, not from fire, but from breakfast. Tala was outside, cooking near the well, her hair tied back, her movements quiet and sure. He stepped out, sunlight washing over everything, the ranch, the fields, her face. She glanced at him and said, "You sleep like a man who doesn't want to wake up." He smiled. "Maybe I was dreaming something worth staying in." She looked away, hiding a faint blush behind the shadow of her hair. "Dreams are for those who still have a tribe." Eli sat beside her, breaking the silence. Maybe that's what we're building here, not a house, not a ranch, a tribe of two. Tala didn't answer, but her eyes softened. The wind carried the scent of grass, sunlight, and something new, something neither of them had dared to believe in. But peace in the Wild West never lasted long. Before sunset, they saw the riders, 4 figures on horseback, distant but clear against the red horizon. The same drums echoed faintly again, this time faster, louder. Tala's face went pale. They've come sooner than I thought. Eli stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. Then let them come. The light behind them glowed brighter, the sky blazing orange as the world seemed to hold its breath. The storm of the past was coming back, and this time, they would face it together. The riders came slow, their figures cutting through the golden dust like ghosts from another life. The sound of their horses carried over the valley, deep, rhythmic, steady. Eli and Tala stood by the fence, sunlight blazing behind them, the ranch bathed in the fierce glow of late afternoon. They're from your tribe, Eli asked quietly, though he already knew the answer. Tala's voice trembled only slightly. They are the ones who cast me out. Her hand gripped the wooden fence so hard her knuckles turned white. Eli noticed, then placed his hand over hers, not to stop her, but to remind her she wasn't alone. They won't touch you here, he said. She looked up at him. They won't need to. Their words will. The riders stopped a few yards away. Dust swirled around them, turning their shadows long and sharp. The leader, an older man with eyes like thunderclouds, stepped down from his horse. His coat was made of deerskin, his chest marked with symbols of rank and spirit. Tala of the lost blood, he said in a voice that carried the weight of judgment. You defied the spirits, you brought death to your tribe, and now you stand with the man who built his home on their bones. Eli took a step forward. This land was empty when I came here. The man's eyes flickered toward him. To you, perhaps. To us, every rock remembers. The air between them burned. Tala stood tall, her eyes fierce. I remember too. I remember who saved me when my own people turned their backs. The elder's face softened for a moment, sorrow flickering beneath the anger. The spirits do not forgive betrayal. Then maybe they never knew mercy, Eli said. The elder turned his gaze toward the sky. The land will judge you both soon enough. With a sharp whistle, the riders turned their horses and rode off, leaving behind a cloud of dust and an echo of drums that faded into the hills. Tala stood still, her breath uneven. Eli reached out, touching her shoulder. You okay? She shook her head. No, they will return, and next time, not with words. He nodded. Then we'll be ready. Days passed. The valley returned to its usual silence, but there was something new in the air, tension, like the earth itself was holding its breath. Tala worked harder than ever, fixing the corral, tending to the horses, sharpening tools. Eli noticed the way she'd glance at the horizon every few hours, as if expecting ghosts to come riding through the dust. One morning, as sunlight spilled over the fields, Eli found her sitting by the river. She was carving something from wood, a small figure of a wolf. He sat beside her. That your spirit animal? She nodded. The wolf lives alone, but never forgets its pack. He smiled faintly. Maybe it's time it found a new one. She looked at him then, really looked, and for the first time, he saw the loneliness behind her strength. You would share your pack with someone like me. Eli's voice was soft. You already are. The words hung between them, brighter than the sun. But the peace didn't last. One evening, just before sunset, the drums returned, closer, louder, faster. Tala froze mid-step, her heart racing. Eli walked out with his rifle in hand, scanning the horizon. They came, a dozen riders, armed, faces painted in red clay. At their head, the same elder, but his expression had changed. There was no sorrow now, only purpose. Tala stepped forward. Elder, please, this land is not cursed. It breathes again. He raised his hand, silencing her. It breathes because you fed it with forbidden fire. Eli tightened his grip on the rifle. You leave, or I'll make you. The elder looked at him coldly. You don't belong here, white man. You never will. Eli took one step forward. Then I'll die here, same as anyone who loves this land. For a heartbeat, time stopped, and then chaos erupted. The riders charged, horses thundering across the field. Eli fired once, the sound cracking through the valley. Tala grabbed her bow, arrows whistling through the golden air. The fight was fast, fierce, wild, dust, sun, screams, gunfire. But the light never dimmed. The sun blazed bright above them, as if refusing to let darkness take the land again. Dash dash dash. When the dust settled, silence fell heavy. 2 riders lay wounded, the elder dismounted, breathless, his face torn between rage and disbelief. Eli dropped his rifle, stepping closer. "It's done," he said quietly. The elder stared at him, then at Tala, who stood firm, bow still in hand. "You both fight for what you believe in," he said at last. "Maybe, the spirits are watching after all." He turned to his people. "Leave them, this land has chosen its guardians." The riders rode away, the sound of their hooves fading like thunder after rain. Dash dash dash. When it was over, Tala dropped to her knees, trembling. Eli knelt beside her, lifting her face. "It's over," he said softly. She shook her head. "No, it's beginning." He frowned. "What do you mean?" She smiled faintly, tears in her eyes. "The land forgave us, Eli. And now, maybe I can forgive myself." He brushed a strand of hair from her face, sunlight glinting in her dark eyes. "Then we'll start over. You and me." She nodded slowly. "A tribe of 2. The wind picked up, gentle this time, carrying the scent of rain and wildflowers. The valley glowed golden and alive, stretching wide and endless beneath the sun. Tala took Eli's hand, standing with him as the day faded into a calm, endless light. The sun rose slow that morning, turning the sky from pale gold to burning fire. The valley that once echoed with war now breathed with peace, silent, alive, watching. The grass had begun to grow again near the river, and the birds had returned, filling the air with songs that hadn't been heard in years. Tala stood by the fence, her hair flowing with the wind, her eyes fixed on the distant mountains. She could still see the dust from where her tribe had ridden away, leaving her not as an exile, but as something new, a bridge between 2 worlds. Eli came from behind her, his boots crunching softly on the dry earth. "You've been up since dawn," he said. "I wanted to see if the land still breathes," she replied. He smiled, and she turned to him, the morning light glinting in her eyes. "It does, because we stopped fighting it." He stepped closer, brushing the dust from her shoulder. "Guess that means we finally belong here." For a moment, the 2 stood there, no war, no fear, just sunlight and quiet. Dash dash dash. By midday, they worked on the fields together. Eli plowed while Tala planted. Every motion was slow and steady, like a dance between the living and the land itself. Sweat glistened on their skin, but neither complained, every drop felt like a prayer. At one point, Tala paused, wiping her brow. "You know," she said softly, "when I was a girl, I thought the land was angry at me. Now I think it was just waiting for me to come back." Eli looked up from the soil, his eyes warm. "Maybe it was waiting for both of us." She smiled faintly. "Then let's not make it wait anymore." Dash dash dash. The weeks passed, and life began to return to the valley. The horses grew stronger, wildflowers covered the fields, and even the old barn, once broken, now stood proud under the open sky. Travelers started to pass by again, whispering about the couple who tamed the Ghost Valley. Eli never corrected them. He didn't care about the stories, only the truth he lived every day. At sunset, he and Tala would sit on the porch, the light turning the sky to molten gold. They'd talk about simple things, the river, the crops, the way the wind carried the scent of cedar and wild mint. Sometimes, they said nothing at all. Sometimes silence was the only language love needed. Dash dash dash. One evening, as the day began to fade, Tala looked toward the horizon. "Do you ever miss where you came from?" Eli thought for a moment. "Not anymore. Everything I lost led me here." She nodded slowly. "Then maybe the spirits planned this." He chuckled. "You think they forgive easy?" "No," she said softly. "But they understand courage." The air shimmered around them, the light soft, the valley glowing like it was alive again. Dash dash dash. Later that night, Tala stood outside the cabin. The stars stretched wide above her, countless, eternal. Eli came beside her, silent, his hand brushing hers. She whispered, "The land was once cursed." He smiled. "And now," she looked at him, eyes bright as starlight. "Now it's blessed, because it remembers who loved it enough to stay." He wrapped his arm around her shoulders. Together they stood, the firelight from the cabin flickering behind them, the valley breathing slow and peaceful under the endless western sky. Dash dash dash. The next morning, Eli woke to the sound of birds. The sun poured in through the window, lighting everything in gold. Tala was outside, her dress flowing in the morning wind, feeding the horses. He stepped out, watching her quietly, the woman once cast out, now queen of a land reborn. She turned, smiled at him. You coming to help, or just stare? He laughed. Both, probably. And just like that, the world felt simple again, not because it had become kinder, but because they had. That afternoon, Eli carved something small from wood and handed it to Tala. It was a wolf, just like the one she'd made weeks ago, he said softly, for the tribe of two. She held it in her palm, eyes glistening. No, she whispered, for the tribe that never ends. They stood together under the blazing daylight, the land around them alive, the river flowing, the valley whispering in the wind. Telling the story of two souls who had turned exile into home, pain into peace, and silence into love. The West remembered them not as lovers, nor as warriors, but as the ones who made the land forgive itself.